Introduction. I sank into my chair as the IT director continued to scold us. "And why did you guys include such an archaic login system?" he shouted angrily. "My 8-year-old son could have programmed something more intelligent than this." I glanced over at Jeff, our lead developer on the project. He sat quietly, accepting the angry criticism. He looked calm, but I knew he was frustrated. The fuming IT director paused briefly, glancing down at his notes as if searching for more reasons to be upset. His company had been using the website we've developed for them for months. It had skyrocketed their search engine optimization, increased website traffic, and delivered impressive results to their bottom line. Our client's marketing team loved us. Then their IT team realized they had never reviewed the website. They were furious that the marketing team hadn't included them in the vendor selection process, and they were out for blood. They picked apart the website, compiled a list of a dozen issues they weren't happy with, and scheduled a meeting with us at our office. And they weren't pulling any punches. After the meeting, our team was frustrated and stressed. They felt the client's IT team had been extremely unfair and rude. Why did we have to work with them? What would happen next? Were we supposed to make all these requested changes and updates for free? It had been a difficult month. Uncharacteristically, we had lost 3 clients for one reason or another. I worried about the impact on our team's morale, not to mention the bottom line. And now, after this meeting, I wondered if another client was about to leave. I retreated to my desk and I collapsed in my chair, buried my face in my hands, and let out a long breath. Leading a team was much more difficult than I had anticipated. We launched our digital marketing agency, Blue Compass, in 2007, and we were fueled by pure adrenaline. I was driven by a vision of helping businesses dominate in the digital space, convinced that we'd see rapid growth and make a really massive impact. Now, just a few years later, I was honestly impressed we were still standing. When is this all going to fall apart, I asked myself. Many years later, I look back and feel sympathy for my younger self, who was caught up in the demands of leadership and oppressed by the relentless tyrant of stress. Instead of playing to win, I was playing not to lose. I was constantly concerned about payroll, my own workload, and the struggles of our team members. When we were busy, I worried about how we would handle the overwhelming volume of work. And when we weren't busy, I feared we might never find enough work to survive. The list of anxieties grew daily. I was convinced our early wins were just beginner's luck, and I was braced for the inevitable collapse. I didn't think we'd survive the month, let alone the year. Today, 2 decades after we started our company, I have a very different outlook. Our company has grown significantly. We're creating amazing solutions for our clients. Our team's happy and supportive of one another. I'm joyful and feel enormous gratitude. I know great things are on the horizon. Is everything perfect? Absolutely not. We continue to face challenges, but despite the pressures of leading a company, I have a little stress. It took years of struggling and learning, but I've reached a peaceful place. And it's not just me. Many other leaders who have struggled with the pressures of management, budgets, and layoffs have overcome the stress of leadership. Yes, you can free yourself from the shackles of stress and help your team do the same. Whether you're a manager, VP, director, pastor, president, CMO, mayor, general, chancellor, parent, teacher, CEO, or anything in between, the pressures of modern leadership are great. Today's leaders face immense pressures that haven't been present in previous generations, while simultaneously bearing the weight of their team's challenges. It's not just you, all leaders are feeling it. Perhaps you were once excited about the opportunity to lead others, but years of leadership have beaten you down and left you tired. Or perhaps you're about to embark on your first leadership journey and you're feeling a little nervous and uncertain. In this book, I will show you how to shed the heavy burden of leadership and become a leader your team truly loves to follow. The principles I share are designed to break the grip of worry, allowing you to rediscover the genuine joy and excitement of leading others. You can lighten your leadership burden and enjoy leading boldly. You can become a light leader. Chapter 1: The Epic Pressure of Modern Leadership. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality, But in an age of information overload, global competition, and relentless change, the burden of translating that vision while managing these pressures can be overwhelming. Warren Bennis. I worked for years to bring in an incredible Fortune 500 company as a client. Finally, the agreement was signed and we began a digital marketing retainer with them. It was one of our biggest accounts. I was ecstatic. Unfortunately, my excitement was short-lived. After a few months, I started hearing about issues. The client constantly pushed for more than we had agreed upon. Our main contact seemed neither impressed nor satisfied with anything we did. Our team members began to struggle with the relationship. While it can be very positive for a client to challenge the vendor, and vice versa, this situation was different. The client simply didn't seem happy with anything we did. I decided it was time to talk with the client, so I scheduled a meeting at a local coffee shop with our main contact, the VP of Marketing. I think we're trending in the wrong direction, I said. Our team is struggling with the relationship, and I'd like to share a few of our concerns and hear yours. She seemed receptive. She listened to my thoughts and shared a few of hers. She emphasized that increased communication was needed. I encouraged her to be more open to our expertise and to express gratitude on occasion. Driving back to the office, I felt encouraged that I had stood up for the team while understanding the client's perspective. I felt like this could be a fresh start. Perhaps things were now on the right track. I sat down with the team members on the account and recounted the coffee meeting. They were happy I had stood up for them, but also understood they needed to increase the level of communication. I encouraged them to let go of their frustrations and move forward with a fresh start. A week later, our team had a large strategy meeting with the client. How'd it go? I anxiously asked one of our account executives afterwards. She yelled at us, he said. She is not happy. My heart sank. I met with the team and I heard their thoughts, gave them encouragement and advice. They had another meeting scheduled with the client the following week. Sadly, the trend continued. Things weren't getting better. After another month passed, I sat down with the team to see how things were progressing. I just don't want to cry anymore, one of our marketers said. Leadership is harder now than ever before. The pressures and difficulties of leadership are more immense now than ever before. Today's leaders must navigate constant change and uncertainties in the modern world. Technology evolves at a breakneck speed. Leaders must stay ahead of trends in areas such as AI implementation, machine learning, and cybersecurity. Those who ignore these technologies risk the stability of their business. A disruptive new technology could change the way we do business overnight. A cybersecurity breach could strike at any moment. Global events and economic shifts challenge leaders like never before. From pandemics to geopolitical tensions, unforeseen disruptions around the globe can create challenges faster than ever. Leaders are under pressure to stay informed about these occurrences and adapt quickly, which can be mentally and emotionally taxing. Economic issues seem to impact leaders more intensely than in the past. From inflation to market volatility to general uncertainty, business leaders face tough choices like never before. The realities of budget cuts, fewer promotions, and employee layoffs are all too common, affecting team morale and internal relationships. Leaders today face relentless pressure to innovate and develop new strategies. The era when markets and industries evolved over decades or even years is gone. In our rapidly changing economy and accelerating technological landscape, leaders are expected to come up with bold ideas and strategies to stay competitive and deliver results. Leaders must now manage teams spread across different time zones and cultures. The energy and collaboration of in-person communication has been replaced by screens that render people as 2D pixels and meetings that make casual conversation and relationship building more difficult. There's more transparency and accountability in today's workplace than ever before. With social media, omnipresent cameras, and instant communication, leaders are under constant scrutiny. Platforms like Reddit and Glassdoor host endless critiques of employers and bosses. Every decision a leader makes has the potential to go public and face more criticism than a leader decades ago could have ever imagined. Additionally, we now live in an Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn world where every other company's culture is portrayed as fun, exciting, and more fulfilling than yours. The growing awareness of mental health in the workplace adds pressure on leaders to feel responsible for their team's thoughts and feelings. Many managers end up acting as unofficial therapists these days. On top of all this, today's employees expect more from their leaders than ever before. As I wrote in my previous book, Retain: How to Create an Incredible Company Culture That No One Wants to Leave, the workforce has changed significantly over the last few decades. As the generations of workers have changed, so have their preferences. What people value in a workplace has changed. People want more from their jobs today than ever before. Years ago, jobs were just part of people's lives. We spent more time socializing with friends and neighbors in person. We found purpose through family, faith, and community institutions like church. Today, work has become many people's primary place to socialize, and often their main source of purpose. Many demand that their employer embrace social causes, humanitarian efforts, or even political initiatives to fulfill their desire for greater meaning. Our jobs have become our identities. We're constantly connected to work. Unfortunately, we've lost many of the positive traditions and institutions that once provided the purpose and balance we so desperately need. Today, as modern leaders, we must navigate relentless pressures to perform and innovate despite constant change and an overwhelming flow of information. The weight on leaders' shoulders is simply heavier than ever before. No pressure, right? The oppressive grip of the stress monster. Not only is it difficult to succeed as a leader, but it's nearly impossible to do so without succumbing to one of the greatest afflictions facing leaders today: stress. The modern pressures of leadership has produced the most stressed leaders of any generation. In a recent global leadership survey, 71% of business leaders reported experiencing a significant increase in their stress levels since stepping into their roles. That's a sharp rise from 63% in the previous survey just taken a couple of years earlier. As if there wasn't enough pressure to be a flawless leader, stress makes it far more difficult to make the right decisions. It reduces concentration and focus. Each mistake a leader makes often creates more problems, leading to even greater stress and a never-ending downward spiral. A leader plagued by stress or fear is an ineffective leader. As comedian Michael Pritchard wisely observed, fear is the little dark room where the negatives are developed. Stress isn't just a mental affliction, it often causes physical harm, including long-lasting negative effects on the brain. Scientists have found that prolonged stress reduces activity in brain areas responsible for higher-order tasks, such as the prefrontal cortex. A leader enduring ongoing stress for months or years may become less capable of processing complex thoughts and making good decisions. In other words, highly stressed leaders are slowly diminishing their own leadership skills day by day. Chronic stress also accelerates aging. I remember when I was 31, I went through a particularly difficult period at work. I had hired the wrong people, and drama and gossip began creeping into our company for the first time. Almost immediately, I noticed my first gray hairs sprouting across my head. In fact, stress literally causes gray hair by depleting the stem cells in hair follicles responsible for producing pigment. My grays are still there, but thankfully now, over a decade later, I've become better at managing stress, and I've noticed the graying process slowing. Numerous studies link chronic stress to mental disorders, such as major depressive disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, as well as accelerated aging. Stress can also damage relationships, causing people to withdraw, become irritable, lash out in anger, or show decreased affection. I don't believe any marriage has ever truly flourished under a constant fog of stress. Unfortunately, the stress affliction among modern leaders has become so evident that many employees are deliberately turning down opportunities to take on management roles. This growing trend, known as conscious unbossing, is creating a severe shortage of leadership talent in many workplaces. The very concepts of leadership and management have taken on a bad name. Not only are today's leaders suffering from unprecedented levels of stress, but the pool of potential future leaders is shrinking. When the cure is worse than the disease. Unfortunately, stress is one of the most misunderstood challenges facing leaders today, and so are the ways to combat it. Many leaders' attempts to negate stress have led to heartbreak and destruction. Innumerable leaders have turned to quick escapes like alcohol, drugs, affairs, overeating, smoking, workaholism, and debt, to name a few. What begins as a single glass of wine after a brutal day can become a daily bottle. What starts as blowing off steam with a late-night purchase could spin into financial ruin. What feels like a harmless distraction can quietly erode marriages, reputations, health, and legacies. The very things leaders reach for to survive the pressure can become what actually breaks them. Brief escapes into these temporary pleasures offer nothing more than momentary dulling of the pain. As J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in The Children of Hiram, a man that flies from his fear may find that he has only taken a shortcut to meet it. Another tempting cure for leadership stress is simply to quit. When you're wrestling with an impossible boss, an immature team member, endless internal politics, and the nagging question, how am I supposed to succeed in this environment? Walking away can feel like the best option. Why stay and fight when there's got to be a healthier team, a more supportive culture, or at least a role without all this pressure? Some leaders even fantasize about abandoning leadership altogether and returning to the relative peace of being an individual contributor. It's undeniably tempting. And yes, there are absolutely toxic work situations where the wisest move is to leave. Sometimes a new role or a new organization really is the right answer. But the uncomfortable truth is this: people are people wherever you go. Difficult personalities, competing egos, and unforeseen trouble don't stay behind when you hand in your resignation. They travel along with the territory of leadership. You can change the company, change the industry, change the title, but you'll still meet the same or very similar pressures in a slightly different setting. The real solution isn't escape, it's learning how to stand your ground, renew your strength, and lead well, even when everything feels stacked against you. The solution. Many years ago, a young medical student at the German University of Prague observed something fascinating during his ward rounds. Despite the vast range of diseases affecting his patients, nearly everyone shared the same symptoms: fatigue, exhaustion, and overall weakness. He was intrigued. These symptoms seemed too consistent to be a coincidence, especially given the significant difference among the illnesses. This observation led him to wonder whether these common signs represented the body's universal response to any challenge, physical or psychological. In fact, he had been grappling with the intense pressures of medical school, often feeling overwhelmed and exhausted in ways that mirrored what he saw in these patients. This personal connection, combined with his observations, sent him on a lifelong journey to understand the effects of pressure and stress in the human body and mind. The young man's name was Hans Selye, and today he's widely regarded as the father of stress research. He pioneered the concept of stress as a distinct medical and biological condition, giving us a much deeper understanding of its impact on the body and mind. As I studied this famous endocrinologist, I was struck by an unconventional, concise sentence that he wrote in the 1956 book, The Stress of Life. Stress is the spice of life. In the next few chapters, I'll share the 5 keys necessary to defeat the pressures of modern leadership. For memorability, I have them forming the acronym LIGHT. L. Listen critically to thoughts. I. Imagine the best. G. Grow your gratitude. H. Help them flourish. T. Train your body. Yes, you can lighten your leadership burden and enjoy leading boldly. You can become a light leader.